On Friday, November 14th, 2025, it was Steven Stamkos with the game winner in a 2-1 Predators overtime win over the Penguins in Stockholm. How did Game 2 of the NHL Global Series wrap up? Were there even any penalties to speak of? And Sergei Marashov returns to the crease for his second goal, his second shot between the pipes. Good evening, everyone, and welcome on the new home of Penguins post-game hockey to a special morning edition of Penguins post-game. Pens, Preds, Stockholm, Sweden, Game 2, NHL Global Series starts now. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Good evening, everyone, and welcome into On the Ice and Behind the Benches. Welcome into Sports for Beginners, our listeners joining us on the Ice and Behind the Benches from Sports for Beginners, as well as our listeners from Stockholm. What a day that was for NHL hockey, and what a day it was to remember for Penguins starting goaltender in game number 2 of the Global Series in the NHL, Sergei Marashov. Not only did Sergei get his first, but he also got his first career NHL shutout. My name is Scott McGregor. This is Penguins Postgame, Bills Postgame, following the football show for the other morning action, which is the Dolphins and the Commanders. And Dolphin fans, even though the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins play in the same conference, let me be the first to wish all of you, at the time of our recording, it is Sunday, November 16th, 2025, but should this drop on Monday, hopefully it does, let me be the first to wish all of you Dolphin fans a happy Victory Monday. Same thing for Buffalo Bill fans, but we'll talk about that on Bills postgame following this show, and Dolphins postgame. Dolphins and the Commanders are the topic of conversation there. As mentioned in Game 1's recap, which is part of our Season 4 content on Sports for Beginners, the podcast, the head coaches of this game, just like the game on Friday, which ended 2-1 in favor of the Predators, and also set our record of the Penguins to 9-5-4. The Predators 6-9-4 going into that game. And of course, Penguins going into the first game of the Global Series, which was Friday afternoon on the East Coast, late in France, and of course, Sweden. That record going into game 1 before going into game number 2, which is our topic of conversation. 9-5-3 for the Penguins. The Predators 5-9-4. Predators did improve to the record they had going into this morning's game, 6-9-4. Penguins fell to 9-5-4, which was their record coming into action today at the AVCL Arena. At the AVCL Arena, if I pronounce that wrong to our listeners from Sweden, I apologize for pronunciation issue. The head coaches are Dan Muse and Andrew Burnett, the head coaches. Nothing new for the Nashville Predators here. They go with the same lineup they had in Friday's matchup. In goal, number 74, UC Saros. Number 29, J.A. in at the backup. For the Penguins, a different look, however. in goal, as they will go with the rookie goaltender number 1, Sergei Marashov, going into the goal. And the backup is number 37, Artur Shilovs. Shilovs picked up the loss in overtime, in which Steven Stamkos picked up the game-winning goal on Friday. Game time today was at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central, 6 a.m. Pacific, 7 a.m. p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. France and Sweden. Puck dropped 15 minutes after those timelines. And once again, our referee and linesman, or linesperson, wearing the numbers 88 and 58, were Tyson Baker and Ryan Gibbons. And on top of that, wearing the numbers 17 and 14, Frederick L.E. and Trevor Hansen. If I pronounced the name wrong, Trevor, I apologize. Well, this game, to hear Josh and Phil talk about it, who had the call on not only Sportsnet Pittsburgh, but also on NHL Network for the NHL Global Series. And as I recall, that would also mean that Joe Brand and Colby Armstrong would have the call on the Penguins radio network. Maybe somebody else had the call with Joe today, but regardless, the big boys of the Penguins came to play right from the get-go. We will break it all down for you in just a matter of moments with our first period scoring, second period penalties, third period scoring. And why did I say that? Well, no goals were scored in the second period by either squad. No goals were scored by the Predators in the first period. Both teams perfect out of the penalty box. It was the second period where the Predators remained perfect out of the penalty box. A few penalties to speak of in the second for the Penguins, and they had all 4 penalties in this game, as the Predators have a clean sheet of ice with no penalties taken whatsoever. Goals also scored by the Penguin players. We'll get to those and the penalties in just a matter of moments. This is Penguins postgame global series. We're on a time limit. We want to get to Bills postgame as best as we can. And of course, for those who are watching Buffalo Bills football, the Buffalo Bills have defeated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to improve their record from 6-3 to 7-3. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers go from 6-3 to 4. More on that in Bills postgame. But our final score as we go to break for the Bills game: Buffalo winning comfortably 44-32, the final. More finals from week 11, Bills postgame in the NFL season. But we got hockey to get to. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, let's try and figure out who got the goals, who took the penalties. The one side that we know did not take penalties or score goals as much as they tried were the Nashville Predators. And no, not for the penalties, for the goals, that is. And the Penguins tried to draw penalties on the Nashville Predators. They were not successful. We'll reveal the Penguin penalties as well as the Penguin goal scorers when we return.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, 2 powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Hockey has changed. And guess what? Our coverage hasn't really changed, but we're not just covering the men's side of hockey now. We're also covering the women's game. Join us after select games on Sports for Beginners and also on the ice and behind the benches with Scott and Thomas on the separate platforms, breaking down select games this PWHL season, including games that will include the so important expansion clubs from Seattle and Vancouver, the Torrent and the Golden Eyes. Can the Minnesota Frost go 3 seasons in a row with a Walter Cup to their name? Will we have a new champion this season? All answers will be revealed on a brand new season in bonus content of PWHL recap. You won't want to miss it. See you there. And always remember, ice time earned.
Cianity Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on Cianity Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on Cianity Radio.
You're locked into Pittsburgh Penguins hockey on the ice and behind the benches, and later on Sports for Beginners. Now let's get back to the action for the Global Series between the Pens and the Preds. Here's Scott McGregor. We welcome everyone back now to Penguins postgame here on the ice and behind the benches, the new home of Penguins postgame coverage. But enough about that. It's time to get down to business. As mentioned before, in game number 1, when we were recapping that game, by the way, we were counting down to game 2, and we did that recap on Saturday. Anyways, the game 1 recap, that is, on Saturday. But regardless, let's talk about game 2. Before we get there, in case you missed the final score, Penguins 1 and the Predators 2. Predators beating the Penguins 2-1 in overtime. Philip Forsberg does it himself to tie the game, and then it's Steven Stamkos to seal the deal in Stockholm in game number 1. In game number 2, the only game to this point that has been played so far in the action on Sunday today, we'll talk about that in a moment, once we're through our breakdown, that is, it was the Penguins. Not only with all the penalties, but also with all the goals. Speaking of goals, let's flash you back to game 2's opening scoring in the period. As I mentioned in the first period, no penalties taken by either squad, the Penguins or the Predators, but the Predators also unable to score. First team to draw blood is Pittsburgh. First goal of the game belongs to Parker Wotherspoon with the goal. His second goal of the season, second goal as a Penguin. Hometown native Erik Karlsson with his 12th assist of the season, and also a couple of changes besides who was in goal. But number 15, Joona Koppanen, comes into the game, his first assist of the year, and this is the second goal of the year for Parker Wotherspoon. I'm gonna go with Parker W. Sorry about that, Parker, if I pronounce your last name wrong. Second goal of the year. It comes at 2 minutes and 19 seconds. And by the way, that's the first goal scored by the Penguins that early. Of course, the other goal came in the second period of game 1, the first goal that the Penguins would score, and only goal they would score in that one. That went off the stick of Evgeni Malkin. Career goal number 518. Well, guess what? Speaking of Evgeni Malkin strikes again after the goal by Parker Wotherspoon made it 1-0 Penguins. Parker W makes it 1-0 Penguins. Gino's season, but Gino strikes again for his 5th goal of the year. Career goal number 519 in his NHL career. Kevin Hayes in the lineup picks up his first assist of the year. And Anthony Mantha picks up his 6th assists of the year. It's 2-0 Penguins, or as the old 2-9er would say, it's 2-0 good guys. Penguins on top 2-0, but they weren't done there. I thought this was gonna be an assist, but it turns out it was all Sidney Crosby, the captain, scores his 12th and team leading 12th goal of the season to put the Pens on top 3-0. After the first 20 minutes of play. 10 minutes and 13 seconds. Time of the goal from Gino, 8 minutes, 8 seconds. Time of the goal from Parker, 2 minutes, 19 seconds. Shots on goal after 20 minutes of play in favor of the Penguins, 11-2. However, the Penguins would still, yes, they would still keep the party going, but they were outshot 8-4 in the second period of play, despite grabbing these many penalties, which I'll get to in just a second. But after 2 periods of play, it is the Penguins on top 5-10. Actually, is that right? Oh, yes. Yes, that would be right, because the Penguins outshot the Predators 11-2. Yep, so that's right. 15-10 Penguins over, well, actually 14-10 rather, Penguins after 2 periods of play, being outshot 8-4. So the Penguins rack up 11 shots on goal in that first period. They tack on 4 more. Nope, that was right. I had it right, 15. So they tack on 4 more. So it is indeed 15-10 at the end of 40 minutes of play. Penguins still on top after 40 minutes and 20 minutes, 3-0. Penguins taking 3 penalties, however, in that period, the second period of play. The first went to Ryan Graves, who, not to quote the old two-nighter, Ryan Graves became public enemy number 1 for the Nashville Predators. He receives a 2-minute minor for tripping at 6 minutes and 3 seconds in. A little later, at the 10-minute and 57 seconds mark, Ryan Shea receiving a 2-minute minor for slashing. So Ryan Graves at 6 minutes and 3 seconds goes 2 minutes for tripping. Ryan Shea follows at the 10-minute and 57 seconds mark of the second period. I should say when that was into the second period. He follows with a slashing call. Then the Penguins get caught just 2 minutes and 23 seconds later at 12 minutes and 23 seconds, and Philip Tomasino's got to go in there to serve. The Penguins getting caught for too many men on the ice, so Philip Tomasino will serve the 2-minute minor for the Penguins bench penalty of too many men on the ice at 12 minutes and 23 seconds. All right, shots on goal through 2 periods of play, and of course, goals through 1 period of play and penalties through the other period of play, the second period of play, which is where Nashville would get 3 opportunities on the power play. Penguins able to kill off all 3 penalties, including the 5-on-3, which was the too many men on the ice penalty at 12:23 left in the second period. I should say into the second period, rather. Penguins kill off all 3 penalties against them as the Predators are unable to score. But the Predators do a nice job this entire game staying out of the penalty box. Let's go to the third period and begin before we go to the goal. Begin with the penalty. The penalty to Pittsburgh went to goal scorer Parker Wotherspoon, Parker W. He scored a goal early in the game. Now he is assessed a 2-minute minor for interference at the 12-minute mark of the second period of play. A little later in the period, and as late as it can get, we're now 17 minutes and 12 seconds into the game, into the third period, I should say. Almost at the final 20 minutes of play, and the Penguins are still up. Andrew Burnett's made the call. UC Saros is out of the net. Blake Lizotte said thank you very much. And off of a turnover with the Nashville Predators, he's able to put it in the back of the net for his third goal of the season. 4-0 Pens, which ends up our final score. 4-0. Good guys. The Penguins beat the Nashville Predators and make a statement, beating the Predators 4-0 in regulation time after losing 2-1 in overtime. Oh, by the way, remember, back against the Maple Leafs, the Penguins had a 3, and the Maple Leafs ultimately ended up winning that game after coming all the way back from down 3. As I mentioned, Predators for 3 periods of play, not called for a single penalty. Every penalty went in Pittsburgh's way, and it all came starting in the second period. And then, of course, Parker Wotherspoon picking up the interference call at the 12-minute mark of the third period. All in all, the Penguins outshot 11-7 at the end of the final period of play. But for the game, they outshoot the Predators in this one 22-21. All right, time now to jump into our 3 stars of the contest, brought to you by On the Penguins Radio Network, its respective sponsor, and we're going to go ahead and share our screen. But before we do, I want to remind fans that there is still action to come, including a game getting started just now between the Vancouver Canucks and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And coming up a little later on Sportsnet, the Vegas Golden Knights will take on a team that the Penguins will see back in Pittsburgh in a few days, the Minnesota Wild. Also, the New York Rangers and the Detroit Red Wings are doing battle. That game at 7 p.m. And the Islanders are taking on the Avalanche later at night. Let's get to our 3 stars of the contest. Brought to you by On the Penguins Radio Network, its respective sponsors. Same thing for the play of the game, which we will talk about at the next break. We are at that next break, but before we go to the break, let's go ahead and reveal to you tonight's 3 stars. It actually finished before the afternoon, and good timing though for me, because guess what? As I've mentioned before, I am also I may be a Penguins fan, but I'm also a Buffalo Bills fan. Your 3rd star went to the Penguins captain, number 87, Sidney Crosby, 1 goal, 1 point, no assists. And your 2nd star went to hometown native Erik Karlsson, 1 assist, 1 point, no goals resulting. And your 1st star, and you know what? Even though I really do like Crosby and Karlsson there as the 3rd and 2nd star, I rarely believe that this guy right here, number 1, he may be number 1 in your program down at Stockholm, because that's where the game took place, down in Stockholm, I should say, tonight, as we are in the nighttime now in the East Coast at the time of our recording. Tonight, this morning, or this afternoon rather, he is your 1st star in your heart. The rookie goaltender, Sergei Marashov, is your 1st star. The rookie goaltender of the Penguins is your 1st star of this game. Sergei Marashov, Erik Karlsson, and Sidney Crosby, your 3 stars of the game. And Sergei, if you're listening to this right now, what a game you had. I know you got a lot to work with right now, but if you're listening to this right now, odds are you probably won't be listening to it. Maybe you'll listen to it on a plane, or maybe you'll listen to it whenever you get a chance. But I got to give a shout out to you, my friend. 21 shots by the Nashville Predators, and you stopped every single one of them, including an almost goal. An almost goal. And the referee, as much as I would like to say that that was a goal robbed for the Nashville Predators, as much as I would love to say that, when you look at it real closely, when you look at the highlight real closely, you could see that Sergei Marashov had stopped it, and the referee blew the whistle before the puck crossed the crease for the goal. At that point, it was still 3-0. It could eventually have been 3-1 Penguins. So yeah, the Penguins still leading, but now they've lost their 3-goal lead. Now they're leading by 2, but not to be the case. Marashov stops all of the Nashville Predators' shots on goal in Stockholm. 21 saves on 21 shots. And whoever had the shop and save shutout sweepstakes that they do on the Penguins Radio Network, congratulations on your prize. But even more so, congratulations to Sergei Marashov. 4-0 win for the Penguins. But still, UC Saros managed to stop at least a couple of shots that the Penguins put on net. Of course, 4 of those goals went in, but 3 of them to his ledger, as he only saw 21 shots and made 18 saves. 3 of those goals on those 21 shots went in as goals by Evgeni Malkin. Parker Wolferspoon, of course, you gotta add the captain to the mix. You gotta add the captain, Crosby, to the mix. Crosby, Malkin, and Parker in the order of Parker, Malkin, Crosby, and then of course Blake Lizotte with the game finisher to finish this game. All right, a look at the out-of-town scoreboard for the upcoming games, including the game just getting started now, coming up in moments. A look at where do the Predators and the Penguins go from here. One thing that is for sure, they won't face each other again this season. So their season series wraps up in a tie after an overtime win for the Predators in game 1 on Friday and a regulation shutout loss on Sunday today. Where are the Preds and where are the Penguins going from here? That still to come. Game puck of the game, shake of the game, also still to come. But when we return, the final stats from Stockholm, Sweden in game number 2 of this series and this NHL Global series in Stockholm, we get you the stats for the game, including a revamp of our shots on goal, face-off percentage, power play, penalty kill, penalty minutes, hits, blocks, giveaways, takeaways, all of that plus the play of the game coming up next on Penguins Postgame. And it continues as we start to put a bow on the NHL Global Series. But before we get there, stats to bring up. A player of the game to be rewarded as our shake of the game, a game puck of the game to be rewarded to both sides, and a play of the game to be rewarded. All of that and an out-of-town scoreboard to look at, and perhaps a check-in in the PWHL is on tap. We'll be back in a moment.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Oh, the game's over. Really? Yes, really. But you know what? It's not quite over because the content continues. Join us after select PWHL games this year on Sports for Beginners for the return of PWHL Recap. We got everything you'd like from 3 stars of the game, the women's hockey player of the game, the play of the game, the dominant star to watch, all on PWHL Recap, coming back this fall and winter to Sports for Beginners, the podcast, with your host, Scott McGregor. You won't want to miss a minute of the action. We may not cover all games, but we will definitely make sure we sprinkle in the expansion teams against some of the original 6, which are the Vancouver Golden Eyes and the Seattle Torrent. You won't want to miss it, and it all starts soon.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
You're locked into Pittsburgh Penguins hockey on the ice and behind the benches, and later on Sports for Beginners. Now let's get back to the action for the Global Series between the Pens and the Preds. Here's Scott McGregor. Penguins beat the Nashville Predators 4-0. Welcome back to Penguins postgame. Penguins and the Predators Game 2, the NHL Global Series from earlier today. This is the On the Ice and Behind the Benches program. Sports for Beginners had Game 1. We will have Game 2 also on Sports for Beginners following the football programming or Buffalo to Miami. But with that being said, we continue on talking Penguins and the Predators. For those who missed it, when it comes to the Penguins and the Predators. Game 1's final score of the NHL Global Series in Stockholm, 2-1 in favor of the Predators in overtime. Steven Stamkos with the game-winning goal after Philip Forsberg tied it up in the third period of that game. Our final score as of Game 2, which was today, Penguins 4, Predators 0. And one more thing, in case you missed it, our 3 stars were Sergei Marashov. Okay, there we go. I'm getting better at it. Sergey. Sorry about that. If I keep pronouncing the name wrong, sorry to all other players, officials, coaches, if I pronounce anyone's name wrong. Official apologies in advance, just in case. The second star went to Penguins defenseman Erik Karlsson and hometown boy Erik Karlsson. And Captain Sidney Crosby winds things down at third star of the game. All right, let's jump to the stats. Before we do, however, let's go take a look at the ongoing out-of-town scoreboard. 2 games yet to be played. Those are at 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern. 2 games underway. Penguins and the Predators are the only game final thus far. Penguins beaten the Predators 4-0 earlier this morning. That is the game we are talking about. Currently in the second period is the game from 5 p.m. as the Tampa Bay Lightning have jumped ahead of the Vancouver Canucks 2-0. Goals off of the stick of Nikita Kucherov and former Penguin Jake Guentzel. Let's go to Minneapolis, where the Pittsburgh Penguins will host that team that is home now, but is heading momentarily for Pittsburgh. That is the Minnesota Wild. They lead the Vegas Golden Knights right now by a score of 1-0, I should say. And still to come later in the evening, the Red Wings are in the Big Apple to take on the New York Rangers. That is coming up in less than an hour from now. It is 6:23 p.m., so that's coming up momentarily. And coming up in about 3 hours' time, less than 3 hours' time, I should say, it is the Islanders and the Avalanche. Both the game between the Avalanche and the Islanders and the games we looked at before. 2 of those games can be seen on Sportsnet in Canada. That is your out-of-town scoreboard for today. Let's go to our stats for this hockey game, Penguins and Preds. All right, here we go. Gonna go side by side. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, our stats final. As you can see, we have the Penguins outshooting the Nashville Predators 22-21 in the shot totals. This game in Stockholm saw 56 faceoffs, the Predators winning 33 of those 56 faceoffs, eclipse at least 59% in a winning of faceoffs. 41.1% of the faceoffs were won by Pittsburgh, 23 out of 56. The Penguins held all the time in the box at 8 minutes in the penalty box. Predators with no penalties to show for. Predators penalty kill 0-0 in this game, same as the Penguins power play, 0-0. As the Penguins did not draw a penalty in this game, the Predators meanwhile drawed 4 penalties, and on the penalty kill side, the Penguins killed off all 4. They are a perfect 4-for-4 coming out of this game. And the Predators, just like the game on Friday, even though both power plays were given opportunities, but none were able to score. This time it's only the Predators able to get the opportunity, but they are not able to score. are 0 for 4 on the day. Hits in this game, 27 for the Predators and 15 for the Penguins. 15 blocked shots for the Penguins. For the Predators in this one, 11 blocked shots. The Predators had 7 giveaways, 7 takeaways for the Predators, 4 takeaways for the Penguins. In the giveaways, the Penguins with 10, Predators with a whopping 20 giveaways. And as we speak with you, that is it for our stats. That is also it for our series with the Nashville Predators, Penguins, and the Preds, done for the year. However, we are not quite done yet with our show. Right now, let's get to, while we're on our shared screen, our play of the game, brought to you by, on the Penguins Radio Network, its respective sponsor. We do not have a sponsor for any of those segments. And if this was on the Penguins Radio Network, and the old 2-9er Phil Borg would be on the Penguins Radio Network, the play of the game would go to him. I don't know what Borky's play of the game was in this one, but we would also give this to our guest if we had a guest on our post-game show. But since we do not, the play of the game will go to the host. And for me, my play of the game, I mean, Sergei Marashov was very well played today. He played really, really well today. But my play of the game's got to go as one of the goals in this game. Between the 4 Penguins to choose from, my play of the game, and we're going to get that out of the way there, that was an update going across our shared screen. Anyways, my play of the game is going to go to the man who scored on Friday. The only goal the Penguins would get out of the 5 goals they would get in Sweden, 1 goal in Friday's loss. Nashville only able to score 2 goals in Sweden. So the Penguins winning, even though they tied the season series, they win the global series in terms of goals scored 5-2, with no goal scored by Nashville after the game went final officially. Penguins score 1 goal in the overtime loss to Nashville, come back with 4 goals, 3 of them unanswered in the third period, and goal number 2, career goal number 519 of Evgeni Malkin's career, and his 5th goal of the season. Good enough for my play of the game. Audio credit to the NHL, Pittsburgh Penguins, Sweden, and of course, the Nashville Predators. Here's what it looked like from the Pittsburgh side of things on Sportsnet Pittsburgh with the guys who had the call on Sportsnet, and of course on Sportsnet Pittsburgh, the old 2-9er, Phil Borg, and Josh Getzoff. Josh, by the way, as I've mentioned before, gonna give you another shout out here. I absolutely love your game day question of the days ahead of every Penguins game. Enjoy the play of the game.
Sails around, Malkin controls, centers for Hayes, shoots, St. Stars, Malkin for Sweden. Everything he puts to the net goes in, and the Penguins take a 2-0. I said it Friday, I might as well say it again. You gotta be good to be lucky, and lucky to be good. Evgeni Malkin is both on this goal as he banks this one.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with Phil Borg on that. He bolted in that goal. Oh, and by the way, that was Malkin's 2nd goal in Sweden, 5th goal of the year. And like I said before, Malkin in Sweden has scored now career goals 518 and 519 in his NHL career. Both of them coming under the OT loss of 2-1 on Friday, and the other one coming off today's 4-0 win against the Preds. So you lost to the Preds, but Malkin scored a goal. You beat the Preds today, and Malkin scores a goal. Oh, by the way, as I mentioned off the top of the show, the big boys coming into play. Malkin, Crosby, and then you had Parker also getting things started. And I mentioned he did take a penalty in this game. And then Blake Lizotte with the game-ending goal in the final game in Stockholm, Sweden. Malkin's goal, though, good enough for my play of the game. And with that being said, a quick little check around here on the other side of the ice, the women's game right now. A big check in there over on the PWHL. I have yet to add a little bit more to the action here, but a big check here on PWHL's website. Still one more game to play in the PWHL today. Earlier on today, the Ottawa Charge and the Toronto Scepters getting things going. Toronto winning in overtime in match number 1 between the two clubs. And it is a 3-2 final for the Charge. The Charge falling 3-2 in overtime to the Scepters. Coming up in mere moments at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And of course, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. It is game 2 of 2 between the Vancouver Golden Knights and the Seattle Torrent. The Torrent were shut out on Saturday, 3-0 at the Pacific Coliseum. So they'll be looking for a little bit of revenge here in their second exhibition game. Pacific, 11 a.m. Mountain, Saturday. Montreal beats Boston with Jessica DiGirolamo ending it in overtime. 3-2 Montreal over Boston on Saturday in overtime. Boston and Montreal will duke it out again tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern. And speaking of duking it out tomorrow, the team that played earlier this afternoon, Toronto and Ottawa, will duke it out again tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern. Game 2 of exhibition time coming up in their preseason. They lost game 1, the Torrent did, but can they pull off what the chart within their last game against the Frost, which was a 6-2 final on Friday, this past Friday? Season drops the puck this Friday, but first, you got to put a bow on the exhibition games. And up next tonight, it's the Golden Eyes and the Torrent. Charge and Scepters get things going tomorrow at 1 Eastern, 12 Central, 10 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Mountain, followed later and Victoire, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Mountain, and then it's time to get ready for Friday. Back to the Penguins and Predators. Penguins and the Predators finished the season series tied at a game apiece. Predators with the win on Friday, 2-1 in overtime, and today the winner is in shutout fashion, the Pittsburgh Penguins, 4-0 winners over the Predators of Nashville. Before we go to break, let's go to our shake of the game as we get you set up for Penguins and the Wild. Reminder, the Wild currently in action. They're taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. It is 1-1 in Minnesota. Tampa Bay on top 2-0. They are now on top in Tampa Bay over the Vancouver Canucks. And coming up in just a few moments, Cam Talbot and Jonathan Quick, their respective squads, the Red Wings and Rangers, will do battle. Game time 7 p.m. Eastern. Game time for Islanders and Avalanche at 9 p.m. Eastern. And for all you football fans out there, as we'll talk about on Bill's postgame coming up momentarily, and once we're out of here, it's the Eagles and the Lions on Sunday Night Football. That's coming up. And by the way, Monday Night Football this week is the Dallas Cowboys and the Las Vegas Raiders. But we'll talk more about that in full on Bill's postgame. All right, let's get back to hockey. Today's shake of the game recipient goes to, for the Nashville Predators, it goes to their goaltender, Juuse Saros. Despite giving up 3 goals and stopping 18 of 21 shots, I thought Saros had a pretty good game today. And our recipient of the shake of the game, let alone my player of the game. I mean, I could give it to the goal scorers for the Penguins, but I'm going to give it to the man who acted like a brick wall and was a brick wall all day. Sergei Marashov, Penguins goaltender. Congratulations on your first career NHL win and first career NHL shutout, you, my friend, receive the shake of the game, the game puck of the game for the Penguins and for the Predators. And where do we go from here for the Penguins and Preds besides playing Preds and Pens one more time? They only do it twice a year with one team as the home team, either in PPG Paints Arena or Bridgestone Arena. This year, both teams played in the same arena, once as the home team and once as the road team. The Predators won the game as the home team on Friday, and the Penguins picking up the win on Sunday as the home team. Where do we go from here? Find out, along with the game puck of the game coming up next. Stick with us. We continue on Penguins postgame on the Ice and Behind the Benches as we get closer and closer to postgame for Dolphins and Commanders. And of course, for me, a victory edition of Bills Buccaneers on Bills postgame is fast approaching. But first, we got to end Penguins postgame, and we'll do so on the other side. Game puck of the game. Where do we go from here for the Penguins and the Predators? When is the next Penguins postgame? And for those listening on Sports for Beginners, we'll remind you again of the next Penguins postgame show, Season 4 edition. It all comes your way when we return.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Hey, what's up, PWHL fans? Scott McGregor here, host of Sports for Beginners and Weekly in Sports. Join me on a special Season 4 series of episodes on Sports for Beginners starting Friday, November 1st, 2025. That's the day the puck drops for real on the 2025-2026 regular season. We'll get an inside look at the Golden Eyes, the Vancouver Golden Eyes, and the Seattle Torrent. Plus, what can we expect from opening weekend? It all comes your way ahead of puck drop, exclusively on Sports for Beginners. Part of our Season 4 content. Don't miss PWHL Kickoff on the next episode of Sports for Beginners. It is a series of episodes, 3 to be exact, all part of our Season 4 content. That's PWHL Kickoff starting Friday, November 2025. Time to be determined. See you there. And as always, ice time earned.
Hi, Scott. It's Ali here. I just wanted to mention that I'm really enjoying the show and I'm really enjoying what you're putting together. And I wanted to just say I'm enjoying being a part of it as well. So please keep up the phenomenal work and make sure you guys keep this podcast going because it really suits you well.
You're locked into Pittsburgh Penguins hockey on the Ice and Behind the Benches, and later on Sports for Beginners. Now let's get back to the action for the Global Series between the Pens and the Preds. Here's Scott McGregor. Welcome back in, everybody, to the Penguins postgame show on the Ice and Behind the Benches, and streaming later on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. I am Scott McGregor, your host of the program. Penguins fans, whoever thought we would have a 2-point party on Stockholm, Sweden's Avenue? A 2-point party? Normally on 5th Avenue. Guess what? It's a party in Stockholm, Sweden, and the Penguins beat the Preds in shutout fashion to even the season series at a game apiece. But they also bounced back from a 2-1 overtime loss. And as I mentioned off the beginning of the show, when I brought up the Maple Leafs before, it feels like they've kind of erased that taste in their mouth about having a 3-0 lead like they did against Toronto and then losing it, because they definitely did not lose their 3-0 lead against the Predators today. Yeah, they lost a 1-goal game on Friday, but they bounced back with 4 goals, and Nashville was trying to get on the board. They could not do so, and they even had 4 opportunities on the power play and could not generate a chance to score on the power play. In case you missed it when I went over the stats, Penguins power play 0 for 0. Predators penalty kill 0 for 0 as well. Penguins penalty kill perfect 4 for 4. And the Predators power play a little bit questionable here. 0 for 4. Let's have ourselves a little fun here before we get to the game puck of the game. Let's go ahead and hear from the man of the hour, Sergei Marashov, who not only scored his first career NHL win, but he did so in shutout fashion, with his first career NHL shutout resulting. What a day for Sergei Marashov. What a day for him. And he was very good. I really like what I was seeing right from the get-go. He stood on his head like a brick wall, and they say you can't break through a brick wall. Well, the Predators certainly tried, and they did have an opportunity, but the referee said, I blew the whistle before the puck crossed the crease, therefore it was a save for Sergei Marashov. Let me tell you this, if that had gone in as a goal, even after the whistle, and they actually gave the goal, I can tell you for certain, we're not talking about Sergei Marashov's first win, or rather, we're not talking about his first career shutout. We may be talking about his first win, given where the game was at, but we're definitely not talking about his first career shutout in the NHL. Unfortunately, not to be in the cards for the Predators, and that's okay. Let's get to the game puck of the game. Here we go. We're going to start on the Nashville Predators side of things, and if you would like to get in on the action for 3 stars, shake of the game puck of the game, etc., you can send an email to sportsforbeginnerspodcast 8231@gmail.com, or we have a Discord server open, and we also have a WhatsApp group open. So if you have difficulty with Discord for accessibility issues, rather, WhatsApp group is opened, so we will be able to get that going for you. We haven't actually put that up yet, but like for the Penguins specifically, but we have it hooked up on the ice and behind the benches. And we also have a chance for you to get it in there in the general. I got to figure out if we can make that happen. But the easiest way is by email. You can even leave it in the comments if you're on YouTube. Now, obviously, we don't record live, but that is a story in and of itself. So with that said, let's not waste any more time. Here we go. My Nashville Predator game puck of the game. That is going to go to... I am going to go with Jonathan Marchessault. Okay, Marchessault is -1. Jonathan Marchessault is a -1. But he did have 3 shots on goal. That was Ozzy Weisblatt. With the 4 hits in the game. Really good. Really, I think he had a pretty good game. Forsberg had a really good game despite being a -1. He was a hitting machine. And speaking of hitting machines, or rather goal scoring and plus minuses, one guy that was +3 just so happens to find himself with a game puck of the game for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And that is Joona Koppanen. 1 assist, 1 point, +3. No hits for him in this contest today, but he had a pretty good game. Joona Koppanen. And of course, we do know the Penguins were without a couple of players that might have also played in game 1. 1 shot on goal for Joona Koppanen. He had a really nice game. I'm telling you right now, he had a really nice game. Very nice game by Joona Koppanen. I really like what I saw from him. And yeah, of course, we got to talk about the goal scorers, Crosby, Malkin, Parker, and you also have Blake Lizotte with a goal. Only 1 goal for each of those guys I just mentioned. Blake Lizotte, Sidney Crosby, Evgeni Malkin, and of course, Parker Witherspoon. I'm going to go with Parker W. But anyways, pretty good game by all those guys. Shake of the game, in case you missed it, goes to both sides of the goalies. UC Soros for the Nashville Predators and Sergei Maratov for the Pittsburgh Penguins. For the game puck of the game, the Pittsburgh Penguins recipient is Jona Koponen. And we also had and we also have for the Nashville Predators, we gave it to the next best thing, Ozzy Weisblatt, who had 4 hits in this game. What a game by him, and what a game, what a series in Sweden of hockey by both of these clubs. As I mentioned earlier, when we went into a little bit of a PWHL update, fell 3-2 in overtime to the Toronto Scepters. They will play game 2 tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. Coming up, game 2 between the Seattle Torrent and the Vancouver Golden Eyes. The Golden Eyes shut out the Torrent 3-0 in game 1 of their exhibition action. In Boston and Montreal, the game before that, Montreal, Jessica DiGirolamo with the hero in that game. 3, the final score in overtime between the Victoire and the Fleet. That will have game 2 tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. New York and Minnesota are done. New York winning on Friday, Minnesota winning on Thursday. The finals there. The final day of PWHL exhibition games is Monday. That will be the Charge and Scepters in game 1 of that doubleheader. Game 2 is the Fleet and Victoire. Golden Eyes and Torrent wrap it up today as the Torrent look for revenge against the Golden Eyes, and the Golden Eyes look for a complete sweep of the Torrent in exhibition action. As for Penguins hockey, that will do it for Penguins and Predators action, but the season has only just begun, and with 1 month in the books, we are into November, one of the 3 months leading into getting ready for the new year. We're getting close to December, but not quite there yet. The next time we talk to you on Penguins post-game on the Ice and Behind the Benches, the Pittsburgh Penguins will be taking on the Minnesota Wild at home in Pittsburgh on Friday night, the night the puck drops for the PWHL regular season. Season 3 drops the puck this Friday on the PWHL season. On the Ice and Behind the Benches, we will be covering for Penguins post-game. We will have you covered for the Pens and the Wild. Looking forward to that game as the Penguins look for the sweep against the Minnesota Wild. They beat the Wild 4-1 on October 30th. So what will happen in Pittsburgh after the 4-1 win on October 30th in Minneapolis? That remains to be seen. Continuing on the Penguins schedule here, as we get closer and closer to the end of their November schedule, the Seattle Kraken will be in town on Saturday as the 3-game homestand continues after it begins this Friday. Seattle is coming into town on Saturday. This will be the first showdown between the Pens and the Kraken, and that goes down this Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, same time for the Minnesota Wild game, 7 p.m. Eastern. The Buffalo Sabres will be in Penguins territory on Wednesday, November 26, 2025 at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then the Penguins head for Columbus, Ohio. And on Sports for Beginners, we will have coverage of that game for you on our next episode of Sports for Beginners Season 4. That will follow our Friday episode, getting you set for the women's hockey puck to drop on the PWHL season. Game time at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Penguins postgame will follow on the weekend. The Penguins host the Maple Leafs from Pittsburgh. You can catch it on Sportsnet, CBC, Sportsnet Pittsburgh, City TV, and on the French network, TVAS. And of course, you can catch on the radio call for the Penguin side, UXDX FM Pittsburgh, DX. So the next 5 for the Penguins include a road game in between 4 home games, 1 after the road game against Columbus, and 3 before then. Those are the Wild, Kraken, and Sabres. And Penguins postgame will continue on Saturday as the Penguins host the Maple Leafs. To remind you, this the second time the Maple Leafs and the Penguins will meet this season. And then basically right before the eve of the big holiday across the world, if you celebrate it, Christmas. How's this for an early Christmas present? Pens and the Leafs from Toronto on December 2025 to wrap up the season series. Toronto leads it right now, 1-0. The Penguins will be looking to do some home cooking on November 29th against the Maple Leafs at home in Pittsburgh. But they have 3 home games and a road game before then to close out November. Let's go to the action on tap for the Preds. Well, the Predators will start a 2-game home stand coming out of the neutral site games, which was 1 home game and 1 road game. They will have 8 p.m. Eastern starts against Nathan McKinnon and the Colorado Avalanche this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern when the Avalanche come to town. Then it's the Florida Panthers, the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, in town on Monday, November 24th, 2025. That's not tomorrow. That is next Monday. Off on a 2-game road trip to close out November before they come home to face the Winnipeg Jets. Game time for that one is 7 p.m. Eastern. Same time as the game in the Motor City when the Predators will take on the Detroit Red Wings. Then before they take on the Winnipeg Jets at 7 p.m. Eastern on that Saturday following it, which is next Saturday, the 28th, they are in the Windy City to take on the Chicago Blackhawks and the one and only Connor Bedard. That in and of itself, after the Jets game, is a 2-game homestand where they will face the Jets and then the Flames will be in town, and that kicks off their December schedule. But we'll get there, I'm sure. Just a quick update since I did get into that side of the schedule for the Predators. The Penguins will open up December on the road with the Battle of PA on Monday, followed by a trip to Tampa Bay, and then Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, it's the first showdown of 2 between the Dallas Stars and the Pittsburgh Penguins. That series, of course, will wrap up in March at 5 p.m. Eastern on March 28th. But 1 month and 1 game at a time. The Penguins beat the Preds 4-0 after losing 2-1 in overtime on Friday. The series for 2025-2026 ends in a tie. It ends in a tie at a game apiece, even though it wasn't played at PPG Paints Arena and it was not played at Bridgestone Arena. That'll do it for Stockholm, Sweden coverage. Once again, congratulations to Sergei Marashov on his first career NHL win and his first career NHL shutout. I don't know about you Penguins fans, but there was one last thing I forgot to talk about. I'm pretty sure by now you already know about it. But guess what? Even though the Penguins were in Sweden, they did score during the Big Mac attack in the final 5 minutes of the third period. And guess what that means? Blake Lizotte scored an empty net goal, but you know what he also scored you? Actually, you know what he bought you, rather? He bought you Big Macs. at your local McDonald's in Pittsburgh. He bought you a Big Mac. So go get your Big Mac tomorrow or whenever you go. Offer, as I understand, for those of you in Pittsburgh who are Penguin fans, is valid through first 3 games after the current game that they've played, and it is with purchase. The free Big Mac is with a purchase as well. Penguins win 4-0. Next time I talk to you on the Ice and Behind the Benches will be after the Wild and the Pens from Pittsburgh. But for right now, for both squads, the Predators and the Penguins, as they both head home, the Predators heading home for a showdown with Nathan McKinnon and company in the Colorado Avalanche, and the Penguins heading home for a showdown with the Wild. For now, as the Penguins and the Predators head home, a well-deserved rest for our show is at hand. Thank you so much for joining us. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy the action until we talk again. And until we hear Justin Brazeau returning to the lineup, as the great Mike Lang always likes to say at the end of every Penguins game, especially every Penguins win, we do it win or lose. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building. But just for fun, because the goaltender was the rookie and, as I called him, the man of the hour, just for fun, I'll put a spin on it to close us out. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergei Marashov has just left the building. Pens and Sergei Marashov. The Pens and Sergei Marashov beat the Predators. And next time, they'll be faced with the Minnesota Wild. I will talk to you after that. Let's go, Pens. See you then. The football postgame shows are next, so enjoy. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast 8231 @gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.